Hey, also, this is part 2 of lesson 5 in this unit, where we're talking about the equations of circles, and there's a couple more things that we can do with equations of circles in order to write them. And so I want to take time to go through some of those with you. There's some on your practice. I will have an extra examples video as well, but this is sort of the main lesson that you should watch. So we've been given a center and a radius, and we've written the equation of a circle. We've been given a graph of a circle and found the center and radius, and we're able to write the equation of a circle. We've been able to identify some points on a circle, and we've been able to figure out what the center and the radius were if we knew what the equation was. And so now I'm going to give you the center and one of the points that's on the circle and ask you to write the equation. So before I do that, I just want to let you know, encourage you to pause if you need to write something down and then listen. Don't try to listen and write at the same time. Take advantage of being able to pause this video and rewind if you need to hear something again. So as always, I start any equation of a circle problem by writing the equation of a circle. And then if I know the center, I'll label it HK. I don't have the radius here. I have a point on the circle. And like I said previously, if I know that a point is on the circle, I know that I should be able to plug its x and y into the equation. And so that's actually going to help me find the radius, and then I can actually write the equation. So I'm going to label that xy, so I know to plug it in to x and y. So I'm just going to plug this stuff in. X is 6, minus 10 is h, y is 3, minus negative 2 is k. It should look like you're working with the distance formula. Instead, we have r for radius instead of d for distance, but a radius is just a distance. It's a length. 6 minus 10 is negative 4. 3 minus negative 2 is 5. And then negative 4 squared is 16, so I'm going to kind of scoot over here. I'm sorry, it's positive 16. I hope you are yelling at me right now. Negative times a negative is positive. Plus 5, which is 25. And then I add those together. 41. Okay, so normally this is the part where I would square root both sides and tell you that the square root of 41 is equal to the radius. Well, I always simplify the right side, or I clean up the right side, as I say, and I don't want a squared in my formula. I just want to know what is r squared. Well, right now, r squared is 41. And so we could actually replace this part of the formula with 41. R squared is 41. So I can write this equation using my HK now. X minus 10. Since k is a negative, I know I'm going to have a plus, so that's going to be y plus 2. And then we said r squared is 41. And there we have our equation of a circle. So we did do some solving here, and that's a little dangerous because I said there's no solving when you're writing equations of a circle. But we did the solving in order to figure out what should r squared be. And so then we could plug it back into the equation of a circle. So let me do another one. Again, I'm always writing my formula. My center is HK. If my point is on a circle, I'm going to call it XY. We need to figure out what is r squared so that we can write this equation. So I'm going to plug in x is 7, minus k is 1, y is negative 14, minus 0. We don't know what r squared is. That's what we're solving for at the moment. So here I get 6 and negative 14. so 6 squared is 36. Negative 14 squared is a positive 196. And so we get 232 is equal to r squared. And for this type of problem, we just need to know what is r squared, because that's the right side of the formula. So I can go back to my x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, and I can plug in 1 for h, nothing for x now because I'm just writing the equation of a circle. Plug in 0 for k. Remember, when I plug in 0, I get something like this, y squared. And then r squared is 232. R squared, which is the right side of my equation of a circle, is 232. So I just write 232 right there. And let me do one more. Always writing my formula, naming my center HK, the point XY, and then I can plug in. X is negative 9, minus H is negative 10. Y is negative 14, minus K is negative 15. And then we're solving for r squared. So here we get positive 1, and here we get positive 1. So 1 squared is 1, plus 1 squared is 1, and we get r squared to be 2. Again, we don't need a square root. We're just looking to figure out what is the right side of my equation. So now I can go back and I can plug in h and k. Since h is negative 10, that's going to be plus 10 in my formula. Since k is negative 15, it's going to be plus 15 in my formula. And then we said r squared was 2. And so on the right side, we get 2. So we just have one more idea here, and that's when we have the endpoints of a diameter. So I want to show you a diameter. First of all, a radius is when we go from the center of the circle to any point on the circle. So this radius is 4. A diameter is if you go from one side of the circle through the center to the other side. So it's 2 times the radius. So we talked about midpoint previously, and we said a midpoint was the halfway point of a segment, and so that from one endpoint to the other endpoint, the midpoint would be halfway. So, and that's what this is. If I start at one endpoint and I go 4 units, I'm here at the midpoint. 4 more units, I'm at the other endpoint. And so if I can find the midpoint of a diameter, then I know the center. So I'm going to start by finding the midpoint of these two using my midpoint formula where I average the x's and average the y's. x1, y1, x2, y2. So I get negative 16 plus 4 over 2, and 6 plus negative 4 over 2. And so I get negative 12 over 2 and 2 over 2. And so my center, which is the midpoint of that diameter, is negative 6, 1. That is my HK. And so now what I need to do is use this center, and either one of these points here, I'll choose this one, and do what we did on the previous page. So that means we are going to plug into our formula. We need to figure out what r squared is, so we're going to use our center and one of these points. You can choose whichever point you want. That's my xy, so x is 4, my center is -6, y is -4, k is 1. So I get 10 squared, and I get -5 squared. It gives me 100 plus 25. And so I find that r squared is 125. And so again, I don't need to know what r is. I just need r squared, so I can plug it back in the formula. And so finally, very finally, we can plug the center and the r squared in. Since our center is negative, h is -6, we're going to have a +6. Since y was +1, we're going to have a -1. And then r squared was 125. So there are 3 steps to this. We first find the midpoint of the diameter, and that becomes the center of our circle. Then we need to use the center and one of the points to find the radius squared, which was 125, and then we plug both of those things in like we did in the first lesson. So let's do one more. I'm going to find the midpoint of my diameter by averaging the x's and averaging the y's. x1, y1, x2, y2. So I get 5 plus 3 over 2, -15 plus 3 over 2. And so my center is going to be 4, -6. That is my HK. So I'm going to now try to figure out r squared by using HK, and then one of my xy's, I'm going to use 3, 3. I like the smaller numbers. So I'm going to plug in 3 for x and 3 for y. So 3 for x minus h is 4. 3 for y minus -6 is k. I get -1. I get 9. And so I get r squared to be 82. And then I finally just plug the center in back into this equation. I plug r squared back into this equation, and I can have the equation of my circle just by knowing the endpoints of the diameter. And I know this is a lot of steps, and that might be the hardest part, is to just keep going through the steps. So since my center h was +4, I'm going to have a negative there. Since k was -6, I'm going to have a plus. And then r squared is 82. I'm going to have an extra practice video for these if you need more help. And you can also always ask me questions. There are some of these on your practice that you should do, and I wish you luck.